Thank you.
Konnichiwa. I'm Eva Nahari, and as Ko-san mentioned, I am part of the US DNX investment team. I seek to partner with B2B SaaS startups that tackle problems, enterprise problems in the cloud, AI, ML, and data space. Some of my investments are Macrometa, which is an edge cloud provider, Squadcast, that democratizes incident management, which is a very important KPI as businesses go digital, and Quark.ai, that automates support using deep learning, NLP, and computer vision. Before joining DNX early last year, I spent about 15 years in product and go-to-market roles in startups, scale-ups, and enterprise. I also had the honor of heading up the Cloudera Executive Advisory Board for our global 2,000 customers worldwide. So, we're going to talk about cloud trends. It's important to understand why, the reason why behind the trend. In this case, let's start with the data. More and more devices and things are connected. We generate transactions, events, and more information about us and situations more than ever. This data is also holding a lot of value. In my 10 years with Cloudera, I saw a lot of enterprises realize the value out of this massive amount of data coming in. To understand customers better, to understand competitive market changes, and to understand internal inefficiencies. But it's not an easy journey. You first have to capture data, then process it. Some of it you want to store. Then you have to make it available to multiple types of audiences at a whole new concurrency than ever before to really become data-driven. And then, as you gain insights, you want to train machine learning models over this terabyte or zettabyte data set to automate and streamline and scale more efficiently. As we all know, ML is core to succeed in the future. So all enterprises will eventually have to do this. The difficulty is that all this processing and data puts stress on the data center. Business units within an organization have to take turns of the fixed resources in the data center. And that is just too slow, too inefficient, and sometimes just not enough. You miss opportunities because of the bottleneck of the data center. So organizations have to look elsewhere for new innovative architecture and deployment technology. Enterprises have moved to the cloud. The promise of cloud are the benefits of flexibility. You can spin up, spin down resources ad hoc and not have empty cycles wasting data center space. There's a pay-as-you-go model. There is instant access to the newest, latest and greatest hardware. You don't have to suffer of a 6-month procurement cycle and miss out on opportunities. You don't have to design application success up front. You can start small and scale with the success. All these are true, real values of cloud, but enterprises have struggled really getting there. Why? First of all, the skill set. Being an application developer is not the same as knowing cloud architecture. It's been hard to adopt the cloud-native services for traditional application development organizations. It results in ineffective designs. Second, the pressure, the competitive pressure in a more and more digital competitive space has rushed organizations to push the cloud migration trends faster. This results in lift and shift, which means you don't really take advantage of the innovation in cloud. Alongside that, there's a rapid pace of tooling and innovation to support cloud migration, support more optimal cloud utilization, but organizations have a hard time keeping up as cloud really evolves rapidly. If you look at cloud trends overall, they are continuously growing. There's no slowing down. If you look at the total cloud spend of 2020 and then Q1 of 2021 alone, you can see for yourself the rapid growth year over year. Analysts agree. You can read any analyst report and they would say the same thing. Cloud adoption is here to stay and continues to grow. And VC community, well, we don't disagree. We can see that through the $15 billion that's been invested in cloud innovation and continuous delivery technology over the last 10 years. Now take a look at per cloud spend. We all know of the rapid market acquisition that Amazon has succeeded. However, the last year or so, it has slowed down. Why? Well, I have a theory. But as you can see, Microsoft Azure has taken over some of that market share, as well as Google being around the corner and other cloud providers. My theory is that Amazon is more known for its early adopter market targeting, meaning enterprises who are not hesitant or more willing to build with Lego pieces and do it yourself. Amazon is a good vendor, right? But Microsoft, by reputation, is more enterprise friendly. So what can we make as a plausible observation here? Well, it's shifted. Cloud adoption has shifted from the early adopters to the mid segment of the adoption journey. Last but not least, if you look at any C-level priority survey around cloud, you can observe for the last few years that cloud optimization has climbed up the priority list. Cloud migration is one thing on the list, but cloud optimization has grown in importance. I think this is also a sign of the lack of skills and the lift and shift tendencies with rushed cloud migration plans. Well, what does the future look like? Is there hope that it may become easier? Well, I have the pleasure and honor to have Rohit Seth here with me on stage, all the way from California, and he's the CEO and founder of CloudNatix, and he's going to share how he envisioned to make it easier for enterprises.
Thank you, Eva. And before I even start, I want to really take this opportunity to thank DNX. Over the past few days, I just got a blink of a chance of finding out how challenging it could be to host an event like this at this time of our lives. So if there are any DNX members here, I would really request them to stand up so that all of us can give them a round of applause here. Anyone from DNX? One. I see that Rio is there. Two, three. Takako-san, Yoshimi-san. There is genuinely a lot of effort. We actually talk about coming to Narita and Haneda and getting stuck there for 3 hours. These folks actually have put a lot more time into this. So thank you very much for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to connect directly with Japanese market. Before I start, I'll ask just one more question. How many of you care about cloud cost? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12. They're still thinking. That's good. That's a reality, actually. Unfortunate, but that's a reality. And I'll tell you why. I'm not a pessimist, but that's what we are seeing in the market. So I will definitely address the challenge and the future of what I envision the cloud to be. But in terms of the agenda, let me first introduce you to the leadership team in CloudNatix. I'll then talk about the efficiency of cloud operations. Eva has set a beautiful stage in terms of numbers and in terms of how inefficient the world has become. I'll talk about what does it take to be efficient. And then I'll introduce you to the CloudNatix platform, CloudNatix results and use cases. Nothing speaks better than the customer data. And what is the path forward for engaging with us? So in terms of leadership team, I'm Rohit Seth. I'm founder and CEO of CloudNatix, started in 2019, January. Before that, I was in Google for about 11 years. There's a technology called containers. I'm the inventor of containers. Rolled out containers across the Google fleet, saved them $1 billion every year. Worked in Google Ads for about 5 years, used a similar infrastructure efficiencies, and this time accelerated the revenue of Google Ads with $10 billion base at about 20%. Before that, I was at Intel for about 9 years. Intel never used to have a seat on the discussions for enterprise market. It may sound weird, but that was the reality in 2002. Worked with some of the enterprise market leaders and enabled a $5 billion market based on Linux. With me, I have Kenji Kaneda. He was partner in crime with me in Google as we rolled out containers. He also worked at Square and NVIDIA, and he was a principal architect for building a Kubernetes-based operating model for both of these companies. And Samik Bahira, he's the head of products here. He was a head of product at a company called Mesosphere before joining CloudNatix. And before that, he was in NVIDIA, in VMware through the acquisition of Nicira. We are backed by some of the best ventures. That's the beauty. It's not about the leadership itself. We are backed by the best money that is available in the market. DNX is, of course, they are on the board. We have Incubate Fund, one of the very big seed stage fund based both in Japan and US. And then Villa Partners, European and a US fund, and 468 Capital is also enterprise, German and American fund. The key takeaway from this slide for all of you is we don't say that we build or we architect it. We actually operated the technologies that make the Googles and Facebooks of the world operate at scale that they do today. And we did it 15 years back. And that's what leads me to the vision part of CloudNatix. What we are really seeing, and some of the data that Eva already pointed out, that cloud adoption is increasing, the data set is increasing, and some of the challenges that the enterprises are seeing are exactly what hyperscalers had about 12 years back. We want to accelerate the innovation by providing you the efficient infrastructure everywhere. What are the challenges? I'm not going to go into the depth of it, but think about the heterogeneity. There are 5 different cloud providers that you need to choose from, 500 different VMs on each cloud provider, and different hundreds of regions, dynamic pricing that changes on a quarterly basis. And on top of it, you have containers, non-containers, legacy VMs, Kubernetes, cloud-native workload. Enterprises are sucking deep into how do I even build the organization to address all these challenges. That's what is causing the challenge that Eva pointed out about the inefficiency part. At the same time, 12 years back, there were only about 10 companies in the world that read petabytes of data. There are 2,800 of those in Japan alone today. What does more data means? More processing. What does more processing means? If you are running inefficiently today, you're going to be exponentially more inefficient as you scale. Hard, but it's a true fact of life. I've seen that for 30 years again and again. That's why we say that yesterday's hyperscale challenges are exactly what enterprises are having now. And a lot of enterprises are thinking that cloud is a panacea. it will cure all their problems. It will solve some of their challenges, yes, but it will not reduce your cost unless you are really careful. So what are the key ingredients that makes the cloud operations go successful? Among the different stages of cloud adoption, where you start adoption and then automation, then you accelerate, and then you transform, the first and the foremost is you need to have the visibility. When I go and walk to an executive, that executive should be clearly able to tell me how much I'm spending and how much of it is a waste. Once that part is done, you're going to operate on multiple clusters, multiple clouds, multiple regions. That's the reality of compute as the way it is happening even today. Forget about 5 years from now. You should be able to operate on all those clusters, on all those regions in a cohesive fashion. And then the system should be able to give you recommendations when you are operating in an inefficient fashion. You should not be doing this manually. You should not be creating a tiger team to find out how inefficiently you're running. The system should be telling you that part. And once the system has told you that part, it should actually go ahead and fix it itself. Wouldn't it be nice? And once you have efficient cloud operations, that's when the transformation happens. That's when the Ubers and Indeed and Twitter kind of companies born. They are efficient. They operate at scale. What we are doing is bringing that efficiency to every enterprise on earth. So let me introduce you to the CloudNatix platform. First, we give you the visibility, the business intelligence. Second, we will reduce your cost. You don't have to go to any other system, any other platform to reduce your cost. And the third part is we actually will help your DevOps and developers to operate in a cohesive and a more productive fashion. These are the 4 pillars of CloudNatix platform. The first slide on the top left shows you how easy it is to find out how much you're spending on each cloud and how efficiently you are spending on each cloud. Simple, easy, data-driven. Single click, your CIO, CTO, VP of Eng can look at this and have the meaningful discussion with you. Second, give you the recommendations. Third is you can actually debug your workloads, Kubernetes, cloud native workloads through our platform in a much more efficient fashion. And the fourth one is give you the autopilot scheme, give you that control about how to improve the efficiency of your operations through the same platform. This is a picture that I like. It's a real world example actually with one of our customers. The left-hand side is what that cluster looked like. The red means they were operating in an inefficient fashion. They were wasting a lot of energy. The blue means they are operating in an efficient fashion. The right side is what happened when they use CloudNatix technology. 15 days, 300 VMs. Grayed out area is the savings. So that leads me to what are the high-level views of what we are finding out with our customers in terms of our value prop to them. Typically, when we go to customers, leave aside one customer, which was running at 31% utilization, most all are running between 20 and 25. They did not even know about it before. That's the worst part. We go in and get them to start running 50 to 60% utilization within 3 weeks. Savings of about 25 to 60% of their cost in cloud. How do we do that? I ran a 1 million core application in Google with 23 SREs. Businesses have 5,000 cores. They already have 50 SREs and they still want 25 more. That's not how you do the operations. You build automation. And this is a real use case. We reduced the spend from 300,000 to almost about 110,000, almost 60% reduction. The number of cores reduced from about 3,800 to 2,200. And if that was only one example, I would have said good, but not great. The second example where we improved the DevOps productivity, where we actually, our autopilot system adjusted the resources up and saved the firefight by the DevOps by not having the service go down. In terms of next stages, we have the 3-week POC. It's zero cost. We either give you 250% or more ROI, or we walk away. That simple. If you're interested in cost savings, cost efficiency, please come and talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. So this is really impressive. It's mind-blowing how much you can save if you just do it the right way.
That's right.
Now, we spent a lot of time talking about moving to cloud and where to move to, but not so much where you move from. So in your view, if an enterprise starts out today, are there any lessons learned or comments on where to start the journey that you can give to the audience?
Sure. I think it is fair to say, irrespective of whether you're sitting in Japan or US or anywhere else in the world, if you're starting your business today, you are starting in cloud. 99.9999%. The interesting part is, irrespective of whether you're starting in cloud or you have large on-prem presence, the initial start off of your operations in cloud pretty much look alike. The difference is that there is a lot more luggage to carry when you're coming from on-prem side of the world. And to more complicated this environment, particularly for large enterprises that have been in business for more than 15 years, they have built the expertise. They have built organizations to deal with on-prem. How do you retrain them? How do you make sure that they are up to speed with cloud technologies? I think that's where the differentiation starts. But for the most part, I showed the slide where you have the cloud adoption. That's the very first stage. And if you're a startup, you basically get the fresh graduates from the Tokyo University. They are so well versed with the cloud technologies that they come, they do the GitHub, they do the CI/CD, and you're up and running in about a week. Right? So that's where the world starts from. The challenge here is what happens to these large enterprises as they start hitting time after time the bottlenecks in terms of ramping up, in terms of identifying the right technical talent. And that's where I think some of the more in-depth and some of the solution providers that are present in Japan are going to definitely serve a lot of purposes.
Fantastic. That makes so much sense to me. I'm curious, you're the Mr. Cloud guy, right?
Thank you.
And I have the opportunity to ask you, what's your view on where cloud is taking us? Is on-prem going to be irrelevant, or where's the world going with cloud?
I get asked this question actually quite a few times. Is on-prem going away? And the data is only 10% of enterprise market is sitting in cloud right now. It's phenomenal that it's growing 80% year over year, but we are still talking about 10% of total enterprise market sitting in cloud at this point. There's more than $1 trillion. And if you look at the revenues of Dell and HP alone, they constitute more than $100 billion a year. So no, cloud, the on-prem is not going away. What's really going to happen is the new technologies like 100G and 5G, I don't know how many Gs are eventually going to be there, but these technologies are going to bridge the gap between the public cloud and private cloud. Most companies, even on-prem, are going to bring one way or another the technologies that have made the public cloud as successful as they are today. It's not a matter of if, it is definitely when that happens.
Wise words. The future will tell.
The future will tell, yes.
Cloud discussions are often focused on total cost of ownership and the faster time to market with continuous feature delivery and product innovation. But isn't the scope a little bit bigger than that? Like, what are the aspects of the cloud discussion that you'd like to highlight that enterprises should really consider?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate again, but one of those things where the impression actually carries the initial part of discussion, and that is enterprises think that they're moving to cloud for reducing the cost. That's inevitably the first point of discussion. I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but that's how enterprises look at it. Though the more interesting part is, at least for some of the more future-looking and advanced companies on the tech side, they are starting to look at cloud in a couple of different reasons. We have seen that if you operate cloud in an efficient fashion, it will reduce your cost. This is a proven thing. What also now companies are starting to see is it does not only reduce your cost, it actually can accelerate the innovation by your products. Think about if I'm reducing a customer's footprint from 3,800 cores to 2,200 cores, how much more easy it is for that customer to roll out new product features and new products even on a lesser footprint of hardware and software that is required. So what we are actually starting to see is that these companies that are operating in cloud are also having a better margins on the top. And I don't think it's a coincidence. The third part of the pillar is I think this is a phenomenon that's starting to happen about 3 or maybe 4 years back at tops, that enterprises, particularly large enterprises now, are starting to have to move to cloud because the new revenue streams are pushing them in those directions. And I'll take an example of, in the technology industry, EDA is by far the most conservative side of the world. The cadences of the world, the synopses of the world, because they have the data that's probably more secretive than you can imagine, probably 1 degree higher than even the government data of any country. The lives of Samsung, Intel are actually in that data. They would never leave or part away with that data. Just 2 months back, Synopsys made an announcement that they are migrating to Azure. I don't think anyone really realized how deep a statement it is. And I got an opportunity to talk to one of their executives and try to kind of get into the depths of what, why, and what. And it was very clear. Each software license from Synopsys are in millions of dollars. But there are thousands of startups that would love to use their product but cannot afford to buy their license. Comes cloud, comes a SaaS model, and all of a sudden they have a new revenue stream now, right? Bank fraud system is another thing. Banks definitely hate moving data from on-prem to cloud, but now being pushed by third-party data providers saying that we only operate in cloud. I think these are the major events that are actually shaping up the enterprise transitions to cloud. And in my opinion, the ones that are going to win are the ones that are going to operate in an efficient fashion. More and more companies, it doesn't matter whether you are a high-tech company or not, to be honest with you. Every company at this point is a software company. Whether you like it, whether you know it, doesn't matter. You are a software company. You think and behave like one, and I think you will be successful in that sense.
Thank you, Rohit. This has been amazing to learn from you. And thank you for taking the time and the challenge of getting to Japan in time and with all the challenges in these times. We couldn't be more grateful for your contribute to this session and to this event. I recommend anyone in the audience with cloud curiosity to come and talk to Rohit during the network hour. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.